doesn't matter how you finance it, whether it's Michael Zilka or whether it's me investing my retirement funds into JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs and then investing. Ultimately, it's your money, my money, your pension, your 401k, your savings. So the people who manage that money are responsible to make sure it's a good investment. And so whatever kind of investment it is, wind energy or Walmart, or it will be subject to great scrutiny. This year, next year, we will have a very good case for wind energy. If you look at the cost of coal, it's doubled in the last couple of years. The cost of oil has more than doubled. The cost of natural gas has tripled. It's very clear that the cost of energy is going up, and it's probably not going to go down. And so, in the near future, 5 years, 10 years, we know that the technology is, one of the big technologies is wind. After 15 or 20 years, who knows, we'll have a hybrid nuclear fission fusion super generator, or not. So I think for the first years, we can all be comfortable. Our investors, the town, the landowners can be fairly comfortable that that wind energy is a viable way to generate clean, renewable electricity. But we're not so sure about 15 years, and that's so typically what happens is we will make an agreement with the towns or the landowner. It could actually be either, whereby after a certain number of years, when you begin to get into that, that time frame when a new technology could come up or something could happen that can't be foreseen, that we would start contributing, and this would be a requirement, probably a requirement of any permit, that we start contributing every year, and typically it's after 10 years. We start contributing every year some money into an escrow account, so that as you go further and further in the future, the town or the landowners, the town probably has an escrow fund available to dismantle these machines. And so it's a good question, and it, of course, makes our economics a little bit less good because we put that money in the account, and even though it's not being used, we have to treat it as being spent, and so it, reduces our profitability. But I think it's the right thing to do. It's a very common request, and so I would anticipate. I can't imagine actually that we wouldn't have some form of a bond. We would actually have a number of road bond and a decommissioning escrow account, or whatever vehicle would be appropriate. So.
Broadly the same answer for Noel, although I always tell landowners who ask me this question, and they all have, every single one of them. I say, look, if we go, west, so you have a windmill, and if I don't pay you, no one can come onto your land, and someone's going to show up with a big checkbook to relieve you of the problem of the windmill. But like Pat and Silka, we recognise that no town is going to issue a permit unless this matter is addressed. It has to be addressed.
This is providing that it's in good shape and it's functioning and all that. But if the windmill itself is in repair,
okay, well,
there's lights that need, aviation lights on the thing that need to be going all the time.
Well, that's the purpose of the operations and maintenance. We allow an amount of money per kilowatt used. The industry has a very, very long record of how much it costs to properly operate and maintain a windmill plant. And that's what, when these guys get up in the morning and go to work, that's what they're doing.
Well, I'm saying this is after it's defunct, and your minds are elsewhere.
The great thing about a windmill is that if it's working, it doesn't require fuel. So its cost of operation is the cost of keeping people there to, keep the light on.
Right, but I'm saying that it's all over with, and the landowner now has a windmill.
Well, that's the
situation, there, and it doesn't work, and the lights on top.
That's the situation that Patrick is addressing. There has to be the funds available,
right,
or a bond to cash in to take it away.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's really not, unless it's working, it's a problem.
Right.
So, one other question. Am I given to understand that neither company right now has no designs on the APA in the park of doing anything, such as, underground wires going through the park to get to your windmills?
Now, the projects that I talked about this evening has no designs on doing anything in the park, but we do
None
have
whatsoever?
we do have the hope that in the future, if this project is successful, that we would add a small park project. But the project I spoke about this evening, nothing in the park.
What about still?
Patrick?
Yeah, as a wind energy company, we would like to put wind projects where it's windy and there's transmission and there's a separate community. I don't think we could go to the park agency and say, we could do a project outside the park and we could do a project inside the park. You know what we want to do? We want to do a project inside the park right now, and maybe later on we'll do one outside. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. There's just another level of complexity in doing a project in the park. And it's not, you all know that.
Right,
So what we would like to do is, and the project we're proposing has I showed you it's north of the park. The project we're proposing that we've applied for 120 megawatt interconnect does not have any turbines in the park. There is a project that is going through the process. It's entirely in the park, and I think there might be another project in the southern part of it.
What was that?
Well, it's the north. It's I think Councilman Danford referred to the north.
Oh, well,
Yeah. There is a developer who's going through the process. But
in this area,
in this area,
confined it to the
Yeah,
town of Ellenburg.
So our plan is to, we can't try and build a project in the park until we build a project outside the park.
Well,
What the agency will say is, well, what alternatives have you looked at? We have to be able to say, we've looked at the alternative outside the park, and hopefully we would be successful.
So
If we're not successful here, like for example, if the town of Ellenburg or any agency or whatever, some agency said you can't build here. Actually, the reason might be nothing to do with environmental issues. It could be, I mean, one issue could be the wind isn't sufficient, and we're going through that process and we're measuring and studying. It's conceivable that we might not be able to build a project here, and we might go to the park and say, your park has been damaged by fossil fuel. Wind energy is clean renewables. That we or somebody else, any developer, just anybody, might say, if you want to reduce the damage to your park from fossil fuel, there should be more clean renewable energy generation, and maybe we can talk about having it in the park. And then we might say, you know, we looked outside the park, but the wind wasn't good enough, and the wind is good enough, and this part of the park has open farmland, and people the resources are being used by humans for the benefit of the human species.
I understand.
So, but it wouldn't make sense. We have to demonstrate. We have to look outside the park first, and that's what our project here is.
So even to do what you propose to do, where part of the park, you might have to go through somebody's property that is in the park for your wires. Is that,
I mean,
is this a possibility?
Well, one option when you look. I mean, if you look at this map, in fact, if you look at this map and you look at the interconnection queue, there's a transmission line here, and there's a transmission line here, and there's a line, indefinite boundary. There's a line.
What is that boundary?
This the blue, the indefinite boundary. So park inside, and people will argue where the park ends and
That's the blue line, right?
the blue line.
There's no argument.
So there is right here a power line, an overhead power line going to
Which
the
is
park.
in the park.
It's in the park. So there is, if you look for the ingredients for a wind farm, transmission, wind, transmission, and a receptive community. You have here transmission. Now, this transmission line goes into Franklin County and exits the park. And I believe, John, there are a couple of projects that have applied to connect.
There are. I don't want to speak for another developer, but yes, there's another developer who has apparently some land in the park who has made a transmission interconnection, but it's not Noble, and to my almost certain knowledge, it's not Zilka. Pat's going to confirm that now, right?
It's not, no. We have not made an interconnection application, but there is this transmission line. Now, you might say one option is, I think what you were alluding to is, there's already a transmission line in the park. So that's already there. There are no wind turbines in the park, but you might say, well, somebody might say, well, transmission line here, can we put turbines outside and connect to this line?
No.
And if you were to connect to that line, you'd have to go to the park. We're not planning that. We want to see if we can put a project outside the park. Let's see how the North Creek, not North Slope, North Creek project goes. See how we do here. But there are, I believe, 2 projects that have applied to connect to this line, but they're outside the park. And if those projects get built, the capacity on this line will be gone. And so the issue here is probably a moot point, because the capacity on this line will be taken by wind projects where the wind turbines are outside the park and the interconnect to the lines outside the park. I mean, this is not us. We're not doing that. So I'm just.
But as of right now, with you, both you companies, there is nothing.
No, our application is to the line, the transmission line that runs just north of County Road 5.
One other question concerning the lines. Now, in your lines that you would run through people's properties, what do you do if you come across somebody who doesn't want it? You have this party is allowing it, and this party, then you got the guy in the middle.
You can't do something to somebody that they won't have you do. It's their land. Absolutely, you can't. There's no concept of eminent domain or any of that kind of thing here. Like, if somebody says, no, I don't want transmission lines on my land, well, you have to honour his personal decision not to have transmission lines.
I mean, just to comment. We're a private company. We're actually just like you folks. Get an idea and you say, well, let's see if others are interested. The first stop is the landowner. If the landowner, the person who owns the land, does not want to participate, maybe if the person who owns the land is over here and everybody over here wants to participate, you'll probably be okay. If the person who owns this land, or let's say the person who owns all this land on the other side of the transmission line doesn't want to participate, you probably don't have a project. And there are lots of places where you don't have projects. Lots of places. There are a few places where you have interested landowners, transmission and wind, and an environmental situation which can accommodate this. So there's nothing. If there was such a situation and that one person, or there were more than one person, we wouldn't have a project, and we probably, hopefully, would have gotten to that point before we get to this point.
Patrick, you said, I believe it was you said that there's 29. Oh, Noble has 20. All right, Noble has 29 landowners. Is that public? No, are they public knowledge?
Yes. If you go to the Clinton County Records Office and check there, the recording of the easement lags behind it takes some time for them to put it through. It's public record.
And how many of the 29 are public record?
All of them will eventually be public record. Now, if you take an easement on someone's land and you record it, it doesn't matter for public record.
Can I ask another question? When you fellows came to town, and did what you did and whatever, why didn't you go to the town signed everybody up.
You kind of know what Pat just said. He said that unless you have interested landowners, there's no point in wasting anyone's time.
But you should have presented yourselves to the town board firsthand and let the people know what you were doing.
Why?
Town board isn't our boss. Town board isn't our boss.
The land is privately
Well, just to make it
owned.
public so everyone could know.
Why?
Well, I found out too late, that's why.
Private land is private land.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want in your land, as long as you don't
All right,
disrupt
but the
somebody
thing,
else.
all right, okay. And now we're stuck with having to make laws and rules and regulations on how to manage these things.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, I do. I pay taxes, I live here and I vote here.
Are there any other questions?
Patrick, how many landowner contracts have you guys signed in for this one project?
I actually don't. I don't know the number offhand. It's it's probably of the same number of landowners.
And do you have a recorded thing?
Yeah.
Okay, there's one figure that was given to me by one of your competitors, and I just wanted to see your thoughts on it. In order to take down a turbine in today's money, it costs $321,000. Is that the same figure you would estimate?
I've never heard that figure. It seems high to me. But I would say rather than, and I don't know whether the competitor was in this area or
It's New York.
in New York. It seems pretty high to me. It's it's you all know it takes a lot of work to build something, whether it's a business, whether it's a house, whether it's a farm. It takes a lot of work to build a structure.
If you give
It
me
takes-
a rough- if you
it
give
takes
me a
very
rough
little work.
guess,
It-
I will present it as such.
To be honest with you, I don't know, but what I would suggest is that as part of this process, as we move forward, rather than me guessing or commenting on somebody else somewhere else, I think the way to do it would be for the town to say we'd like a decommissioning bond, we'd like to know how much it costs, and we'd like you, the developer, to commission a study
I
and tell us.
just thought it would be fair for the landowners to actually know that ahead of time.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not unreasonable, right?
well, the other landowners here, and they go through their process, and I found, to be honest, I found the landowners here, the town officials here, to, obviously we're here, we found that people have put a lot of energy and effort into investigating wind and investigating the downfalls. We don't know all the answers right now. That's the next part of the process would be to have a scoping session for what needs to be studied, and this is one of them, and it's a good point. I do want to say this is a great community. The first time I came here, drove up from Albany, came up on a Sunday, brought the children, long drive, parked the car, said we'll go out, I think it was on TC Road, go out for a walk and feel the wind. Within 2 minutes, somebody had passed by and stopped and asked if we needed help. So this is just a great community. And the landowners, very smart and very, very hospitable.
But they obviously don't know all these figures. And
Well, we don't know the figures. We don't know the figures, and the birds. And we can't tell you about the birds and the bats. And I think it's fair for there to be a decommissioning bond, and I think it's fair for that amount to be what an engineering judgment said it should be.
What's the cost per tower to put up?
Well, to put up a tower is a six-figure. To actually put it up, to
Yeah,
take it
total
from
cost.
to take it from the ground and put it up is six-figure sum.
Is it,
but the cost-
6 million I read.
I'm talking about to put up the tower
Yeah,
is a six-figure sum. To buy it, to a wind farm of this size, the wind farm of the size we're proposing is, let's say, $150 million plus.
yeah.
And so we're proposing 75
You do
towers.
the math, right. And-
So it's somewhere between, probably closer to 2 million, 1.5.
And all
It depends on currencies.
And the power that's generated goes into the national grid,
It's goes into the national electricity grid.
and then nobody has any benefits of the electricity in this area unless they want to purchase it at a higher rate.
Actually,
According to
The-
NISAC.
well, the studies that John has referred to, they concluded that 3,000 megawatts of wind energy by 2013 would improve grid stability, improve reduce the risk of the fuel supply for electricity generation. The other thing that it would do is reduce wholesale electricity costs in New York State. 3,000 megawatts of wind energy would reduce wholesale electricity costs in New York State by more than $300 million.
But
Now, do I get the benefit of that? And do you get the benefit of that? That is, we produce wholesale electricity. It is taken by NYSEG, Niagara Mohawk, Consolidated Edison, Rochester Gas and Electric, and they transmit it through their power lines to your house and
at
my
a
house.
cost higher than what we pay
Well,
for.
the cost, your electricity supply is regulated, at least for the small people like you and I. It's regulated. The rates are set by the Public Service Commission. I'll say this much. If the wholesale cost goes up, you will see it. If it comes down, I don't know whether you'll see it or not. But it's not. There's nothing we can do. We would love, I mean, we're not a retail electricity supplier. We're not a utility. We cannot, by law, sell you electricity. And it's a very good question, and it's something that people, it's actually the first thing, almost the first thing they want. This wind farm is here.
We don't get
Can
it.
we get the electricity? It doesn't matter whether it's a wind farm or it doesn't matter what kind of generation it is. That's the way the electricity industry has been developed and regulated. And
Because in our electric bill, NISAC, they gave a little pamphlet, and it states, if you want to purchase the wind power, it's at a higher cost. And towns are purchasing it in different parts of the state, and they're paying quite a bit more for the purchase.
yeah, that's a voluntary. It's a voluntary market.
That's right,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's a voluntary market. If you have some spare money, and I buy energy from Green Mountain Energy in my house. I can't really not buy wind energy, so I pay, I don't know, $20 a month more.
That's all my point.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, it's a voluntary market.
Right.
I volunteer to do it. I don't have to do it. I volunteer to do it. The wind energy in New York comes from 3 existing projects, 3 small projects. So there's relatively little supply. When you have 3,000 megawatts, you will have much more supply, and one hope would be that somebody like Community Energy or Green Mountain, who are green energy retailers, would say to you, instead of you buying it at 10% premium, I'm going to sell it to you for 15. And if I sell it to you for 15 for 10 years, and if your rates go up from coal or gas, you will always pay 15. So the hope would be that such a product would be available, and at the wholesale level, such products are actually being traded right now. They're being created and traded. Whether it gets to you or not, that's like if you pay tax to the town and the county, will you see, if we pay higher taxes, will you see higher services or lower taxes? That's really up to your elected representatives.
Patrick, do you guys have a projection of what models of turbines that you would be hoping to use? Like I said, it's just projecting in this.
When you make an application to the grid, you need to specify a turbine type, and so we've specified a turbine type.
Which is,
Well, once you go through the process, I won't say you get locked in, but it's a bit of an issue to change it. If the turbine suppliers know you're locked in, your price is going to go up. And so, whereas for technical reasons we have provided the independent system operator with a
right,
turbine
well, that's
model.
what I'm asking. is
Yeah,
for
but
models
if
that
if
you're using.
if the the turbine supplier that we have selected is watching this video, he will raise my price, and so I prefer not to say. But
It's not like there's that many, right?
we will make the decision when the time comes.
So.
We don't even know if that model will be available. So
Right, yeah, I know you don't, because they change quite frequently. Would you say, are you using GE or Vespa?
That's exactly what he can't say out without ruining his competitive position. You know, respect his competitive position.
Well, he said which models.
I prefer not to say.
You
And it's,
guys gave me that information.
Yes, yes we did. But,
All right, I won't
you know,
say
we're
which
in a different
ones.
position. in the
I won't say
competition
which
cycle.
ones, but would you guys
No,
say that you'll
what-
be using the same?
What the person watching the video is interested in is not the model, it's the make.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you guys, okay, I know what models that you project to use in the Brandon project. Are you projecting to use the same models in the Ellenburg project?
At this
So that's
time,
not giving me any,
I'm in kind of the same position as Patrick as far as the Ellenburg project is concerned. But, you know, where we haven't made a determination, we've told you. And, you know, as soon as we can make that determination, but, you know, please respect
this
the need
project is
for,
really-
you know,
well, that's what I
competitive
said, I don't,
information.
I don't have to say it, I mean, I can, but I won't. That's just, I'm just asking if it's comparable.
John,
you know, sorry, I just for our Flat Rock project, if you'd asked me that question at various stages, I'd have given you a number of different answers.
Okay, so which ones are you putting up in Tuck Hill?
We're putting up the Vestas V82.
Do we what?
The V82. Vestas
82.
V82.
Okay, thank you.
John, when we were at the other meeting in Cherubusco, and you talked about the lighting and the FAAs for the lighting of this, and you said that it's gonna be like, you know, like through the perimeter of the whole project with the lights.
Yeah, the Federal Aviation Authority has issued a bulletin where they're saying that they henceforth will treat wind farms as a single obstruction rather than a series of individual obstructions. And, you know, you can find this information on FAA.gov.
I can't.
It's there. The impact of that would be that lights would be on the perimeter of the wind park. What they discovered was that if a pilot looks down and he sees a whole grid of lights, the obstruction is not as apparent. Now, there's a fellow's name, there's a very interesting guy you can talk to about this, and I will email you his name. It's the fellow that made the presentation. Go talk to him, because he actually studied two projects. One was a ridge project, and the other was, you know, had a different characteristic, like more spread out windmills. And they talked to the local people, they talked to the pilots, and they came up with this determination as a best practice for turbine lighting. And the single obstruction means that, you know, where they are at the moment, there will be lights on the outside machines, and they will be at half-mile centres, which means kind of every second machine, something like that.
Like the 4,000 acres and Clinton that you were saying how they're gonna do the whole perimeter of that project.
Treat it as a single obstruction. Now, you know, when we come to do our lighting proposal, you know, the FAA will bless it. You know, and they say, well, you know, guess what? We think perhaps that the north end and the south end are actually two sides. They may have a view, which we would have to comply with, but they have said clearly that a wind park should be considered a single obstruction.
So therefore, if these structures are 265 foot with 125 foot blade at the peak,
The light is actually on the nacelle.
that's right, so when the blade is up, would you have to have like no air travel over that thing? Because they're only gonna see the nacelle light, they're not gonna see the other 125 feet.
Yeah, they don't fly that low. You know, they're going to use our wooden parts to navigate. That's what they're going to use it for. They don't fly into it.
They're gonna use something else.
They don't fly that low. When's the last
Well,
time you saw an aeroplane fly?
They do up here.
And there are setbacks from airports and so on. So the other interesting fact that the FAA came up with is they no longer think that these strobe lights have any value at all. They prefer the flashing lights, and they specify so many candelas and, you know, certain types of lights. It's red. It flashes slowly. But, you know, there'll be a discotheque on your land idea is just not correct. There won't be strobe lights in these machines.
So it'll be red lights blinking on top?
You asked me this question in Churubusco, it's the same answer.
But
It
is it,
wasn't past that.
I'm just asking you, because you told us in Cherubusco, is the red light gonna be on the top and then the white lights on the perimeter?
There are no white
There are no
lights.
white
It's
lights.
all red?
Yeah. The red light, a single red light on the nacelle.
Yeah,
They talked about having two lights because they were afraid that, the light might not be visible if, for certain angles of approach. But they can, the idea, they've said a single red light on the top of the nacelle is what they want to do.
I thought you said there were gonna be lights along, on the side of the,
No.
nothing at all?
There will
Someone
be,
else said that.
there-
Someone who's not a wind developer.
No, that's what I thought I heard.
But it's not passed by the FAA yet. That's the projection.
I just wanted to echo what John said, which is simply because there seems to be some confusion, I don't know why. There will be one slowly flashing red light on perimeter turbines and at half-mile intervals within the project.
Okay, now I got the picture.
At the top, on the nacelle. Today, under current regulations, this is expected to be enacted by the end of this year. So this would apply to all the projects that you're hearing about. Today, there are 2 red lights and 2 flashing white strobe lights on every turbine. So the new FAA regulations would considerably cut down by about 90%, probably, the number of lights that are on the wind farm.
For those of us who aren't familiar with the terminology, what is the nacelle?
The nacelle is the body of the turbine that holds the gear and the generator, and the windmills attached to the front of it sits on the top.
And how much oil is in that?
100 gallons of lubricating oil.
And the nacelle, to put it in perspective, is the size of about a Greyhound bus. You guys have kind of compared to.
It's less than a Greyhound bar.
We should put up dimensions.
A Hummer, the size of a Hummer?
I think the dimensions are. The dimensions are certainly available.
I don't mind being skewed.
They're available on the GE website with the specs of the different towers. And John, to email her the information that you said, you can email it to me. Mark's had an 2 emails this week from me.
Can I have her email questions to you that you can answer for me?
Absolutely. Our email information is on the contact page there.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but
Judy
Judy
Baker.
Judy Baker, yes.
And
I see you at a lot of meetings.
yeah, you will. You did, you will. Yeah. You have to learn.
Can I just,
Yes,
the last question you asked me, I was wondering, and I now remember what I wanted to say. I certainly appreciate you folks coming. I know that there are people here who think that wind turbines are the greatest thing since sliced bread. There are people who would like to learn more. There are people with a public duty. And there are, I'm sure, people here who maybe are against or have serious concerns. And I certainly appreciate everybody participating in the process in a cordial and polite fashion. It certainly makes our lives easier, and I think it makes everyone else's lives easier. So there is a process laid out. It involves significant public participation, and certainly I appreciate it. I appreciate everyone's questions and the interest and the cordiality and the welcome. So
and I'd like to say that I respect you for welcoming the information and the questions from both sides, because it's all education. I have not said anything that wasn't. Thank you.
Okay, and obviously Noel is grateful that you all take the time and trouble to do this. It's unless we have an informed public, this thing won't work. Like we may well give it up. So thank you all for taking the time.
And I, especially in the committee, thank you for coming out. And we will have another meeting in about a month, and come and see if I whistle the same. If I don't improve, there'll be another chairman.